PXG's dirty little hosel secret. We're going to talk about that one next. Welcome back to the Golf Shop. Jim McCleary here, and this is where we talk about golf club repairs, golf club reviews, and golf club fittings, all so your scores can go low. If you would, like, subscribe, hit that stuff across the bottom. That way it gets out to the YouTube universe, right? Also, we have a live stream called What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. We do the exact same thing, except for it's a one-on-one session. And if you would, join us on Mondays at 17:30 or 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That way, you know, it's a live discussion. You'll really have some fun to join us. It's from people from around the world. All right, just like it says, PXG secret. So we have a customer that is sending us a set of PXGs. They have a very, very nice steel fiber 95 in them with an R-flex. We're going to put in a Nippon Modus Pro 105. Well, wrong, that's a lie. That was a wedge shaft. Let's do the other one. Oh, look at that. It is a Modus, Nippon Modus Tour 105 anyway, in an R-flex. So we're going from graphite to steel, right? Graphite to steel. Of course, I've got some swing weight things where we want to change the swing weight, made it a little heavier halfway through the set for some reason, but we're going to try and see if we can make that happen. We're going to measure this one just to see where we're at to give us an idea, because this is a Tour Velvet midsize, and we are going to, and this looks like the coolest new Golf Pride sticky one, and they're both midsize. So the real question, because it's midsize, I might actually have to add some weight in order to get to the swing weight instead of not adding weight. Okay, so here we go. So we got to take these things apart. So in order to know what the dirty little secret is on the inside of this, we actually have to go to the bench and take it apart so we can show you. So let's go to the bench. All right, I've already taken some of these apart. So what we got to do is show you how we're going to take them apart. So this is kind of a multifaceted video on doing some club repair. So this is how to go from graphite to steel. That's kind of a gimme kind of thing, but let's take this ferrule off and we'll show you about the inside. Now, how do we do that? Well, we got the Burnzomatic. It's a butane torch. It's a small but very powerful little gizmo that allows me to put flame right here, right where I want it, instead of blasting it all over the place with maybe a heat gun, and which is not a lot of heat but in a very wide area, or a propane torch, which is even more heat, and it's a little more confined, but not nearly like this. Okay, let's get this bad boy started. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go for the ferrule, and it's around 5 seconds wherever. I don't want to lay the heat anywhere for any longer than 5 seconds. And you can tell it's working because the ferrule starts bubbling. All right, and then what we do, the very last thing, is we run it around the edge where the shoulder is, because we know there's a shoulder in here. All righty, then we take our knife and we lay it flat and we just pull it back. All right, we pull it back and we pull it back and we pull it back and we pull it back. All right, it keeps coming. So now what we got is the ability to pull it down, and we can still get it going. There we go. And it's almost off. Needs just a touch more heat to get it all. Just that little extra bit, because we want it to pull off. There we go. Now we got it. All right, in some cases when you get it too hot, it'll start wanting to creep up the hosel. That's kind of a welding trick where you want to move the welding material, and you want to make it move. You actually heat the metal so it'll try and traverse that area. We don't want that, because that just means extra cleaning, right? So now we want to get this thing off. So what it is, it's a minute, 20 seconds in 3 different places. We got 20, put it in our handy dandy shaft puller. You guys have seen me pull this. We're going to make it so save a little bit of time. Out it comes. It looks really gross because there's still ferrule in there. We got that. We're going to take this and clean this one up for the customer a little bit. There we go. We got that. Now we're going to go clean this out. Now how am I going to clean this out? I'm going to clean it out with a drill to get all the crud that's in the bottom, and then we're going to finish it off with a wire brush. The wire brush gets all the goo and stuff in it. I'll probably move you back for this. Hold on. Okay, so got the drill. It's about 5/8 since this is, or 5/16. You see all that stuff coming out? That's all the epoxy. You want to take a look in the bottom, just make sure. Okay, so you want to make sure you get all the stuff out of the bottom so you get a proper insertion depth. Now with this. Now go in reverse. Okay, so a couple of things we want to do is you're going to check to make sure all the crud is out of there. And we did. There's a little bit more sitting in the shoulder. And the stuff that's normally sitting in the shoulder is more ferrule or epoxy. And we are just going to heat it up a little bit more. And you can tell by looking into it when you start heating it up, if it starts turning dark, you know it was ferrule. If it doesn't, it was epoxy. All right, let's see if we can get it with the brush. Yeah, see there? There we go, now we got it. All right, so now we got the inside nice and clean. Now we got to get the outside nice and clean. We're just going to hit it with the wavy wheel real quick. There's just a little bit on there and I want to get it clean. Just that fast, and then this. Okay, now it looks like it did before we took it off. That's really what we want. Let's go to the secret. Okay, did you know that this particular hosel has the capability of taking either a taper tip or a parallel tip? There's the secret. So if we had, pardon me, this is a taper tip, and if you put it in here, it wobbles around some, and because it wobbles, you're like, well, hey, I can take a parallel tip. If I had a parallel tip, my lovely assistant, Mrs. McGough, brings me this. So this is a parallel tip, and it doesn't move, okay? Does not move. So you could put this in here, okay? So that's the difference. But you go, well, Jim, that's easy. We'll just put a shim in there. Well, and truly, you probably could. But the thing is that this takes a special ferrule. We like to call it a centering ferrule. And you may not be able to see it, but there it is. All right, and what it has is an extraordinarily long shoulder. And you want to make sure that that shoulder fits in there, and that gives it that original look. Unfortunately, we're not doing that part. He wants special ferrules. He wants special ferrules that look like that. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut the ends of these off so that it takes the space that's in here. So you can probably see that. See that space in there? So we need to take up that space, and we do it like that. I've already cut one off, and now it's gone. Okay, so that's the one. That's how we do the one there. Now I got to take it out. There we go. Okay, so the other part. What is the other secret to this? So the other secret is, instead of using a shim, instead of using a shim, what you can do is you can purchase a PXG or Ping ferrule made for a 355. And what you get with it is, one of these. You get a end cap. All right, that end cap, if you look at it right here, just goes on it right there, and it sits on there. Okay, so when it goes in there, and I'll show you when we go to glue it, when that goes in there, it takes up that wobble that we talked about earlier. So now you have what is made for the PXG. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So what you do is, in this particular instance, you're going to take the ferrule, you're going to move it down the shaft, you're going to put glue on it, you're going to put the end cap on it, you're going to put glue over top of that, and you're going to put it in here and make sure it's all spun around with that extra piece of shoulder that I had for you, and then you're going to put it all together, line it up the way you like it, and Bob's your uncle. So that's the dirty little secret of, you can either use a parallel tip, which if you're really wanting to control your frequency, that'd be one way to go, or you can use a taper tip, which is what we're going to put in here, because maybe you like constant weight, or maybe you like the shaft only comes in that particular flavor, and so you want to do it other than taking a shim, and it's actually I don't think they charge you any extra for that end cap, so you save a little bit of money instead of having to buy shims. That's another one. And it very well may soften it just a skosh because it's plastic at the bottom. We're talking this much, not like that much. Okay. So I got to do a little bit of measuring first, and I'll show you how we really go put it together. So give me a few minutes because I got to do some swing weight stuff, and then we'll come back and put it together. All right, let's see if we can do this again. It is a moment later. You know, that's probably one of the most used little transitions in YouTube. All righty, so what we had to do is a swing weight issue in dealing with the golfer wanted D0 to D1, and in the wedge needed a D2 to D3. So what you have to do here is you got to put a weight in, right? Because not only do we have a lightweight shaft, but we also have a very heavy grip. So everything's tilting this way, and we really need it to tilt that way. So what do? We put in, I put in 8 gram tip weight. So what difference does that make? Well, there are two kinds. There's a 355 and a 370 tip. The 350 tip fits in there like it fits in there well. Now, I'm not going to say a glove, but very well. You can glue it in there, done. However, you run the risk of creating a rattle. The glue can come loose. It can, when you bounce it around, striking the ball, that kind of thing. Does it happen very often? I will say no, not very, but this is just one of those eliminate the issue. So what I like to do is get the 370 tip, and what I'll do is I will drive it in with a no-bounce hammer. Little bits of it will shave off, and then I will remove that. Now you go, oh, you took some weight off. Well, yeah, I did, by in the 10th to 100ths of grams, all right? Imperceivable. When you finish it, it looks a lot like that. So you can't even tell I did it, all right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get started with it. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on it so I can put our ferrule on. And what I do, all this is for is to make sure that the ferrule doesn't want to creep. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to push it down just a little bit, just to get it almost seated. Then we're going to put a little bit more glue on it, not a bunch, just a little. And then we're going to run the shoulder that I just cut off of the other ferrule, and we're going to run it down, just so make sure it seats. So now we've got that setting there. Then we're going to put a little bit more glue on here. This time we're going to get a little bit more generous with it. And then we're going to put the cap that we talked about. And here's the cap. We're going to put this cap on here. There we go. Always got to keep wiping the fingers because you don't want any of this stuff to get on the finish of the golf club. All right, last but not least, a little bit so that it keeps spreading around. And then what you do is you just keep going with this. Get it going around real good. And now what I use when I have the Black Beauty in here, or the Quick Center, you can tell when you're got it spread around, when it stops sounding gravelly and it becomes smooth. All right, got it logo down. Got that, and we got that. Always got to clean, because if you don't get it clean now, it's just extra work later. There we go. And the last bit of the inspection is to make sure that it seats, because the last thing you want it to do is hydraulically leave. And because I don't want it to hydraulically leave, I am taking some tape, putting it on the back. And there we go. And they're ready to dry. So I got about 4 or 5 more of these things to do. And that's the dirty little secret for the PXG. You can either use the 370, and even sometimes when you use a 370, it can get kind of wobbly. Don't be afraid to use another smaller shim. The other one is that you can use the plastic cap. I prefer those because they're made for it. Can you use that one? Yeah, I just prefer this. The other one is make sure everything is clean before you put it together. And don't be afraid to experiment by cutting off shoulders if you want to use a fancy ferrule, BB&Fs, Golfworks, whoever. All right. So hopefully you like this information. Like and subscribe if you do. Join us on our live streams on YouTube on Mondays, 5:30 p.m., 17:30 Easter. We'll call it Continental Time. And last but not least, join us on my other channel called Pars and Pours. It's a golf-centric whiskey channel. If you like that kind of stuff, come visit me over there. And as always, let's see your scores go low.